My kids are super picky eaters, but they love this chicken Milanese, and it's ready in under 30 minutes. Let's get started. I like to use larger pieces, about 10 to 12 ounces in size. Dry the pieces with a paper towel so that it's not slippery when you cut it. Using a sharp chef's knife or boning knife, you're going to cut the chicken in half lengthwise. Hold the knife parallel and just cut it crosswise. Now you have 2 chicken cutlets. If you're using smaller 6 to 8 ounce pieces, you don't have to cut it in half lengthwise. We're just going to pound it out instead. Place 1 cutlet in a large plastic bag. Use the flat side of a meat mallet or rolling pin to pound the chicken out to a 1/4 inch thick. Pounding out the chicken also breaks up the muscle fibers so that you have a more tender piece. The piece will look really thin, but once it starts to cook, the proteins are going to contract, making the piece shrink a little bit in size. The even thickness is going to cook the pieces quickly so that they don't dry out. Japanese-style panko breadcrumbs are more coarse in texture, giving you a bigger crunch. They're often used for katsu or tempura. Traditional breadcrumbs are more finer in texture, giving you a more compact crust. They'll adhere to the chicken better because it'll cover more surface area. Italian-style breadcrumbs are a really convenient option when you want the breadcrumbs to already be pre-seasoned. They already have some dried parsley, salt, onion powder, and garlic powder. If you're looking for a gluten-free option, grab some corn flakes. The super crispy texture is going to add a nice crunch and color. Just break it up a little bit before you add it onto the coating. Let's test a breaded chicken that has regular breadcrumbs and more coarse panko. Finer breadcrumbs have a deeper golden brown color. Panko is still golden, but not as deeply golden brown. When I cut into the panko chicken, it had a much louder crunch. Wow, that is super crispy. Now for the traditional breadcrumbs. Nice even coating, but not as crunchy. Which breadcrumbs do you prefer? The more traditional Italian style or panko? For a super golden brown and crispy crust on chicken, use the standard breading procedure. It's only 3 steps. Before adding any coatings, you're going to want to season the surface on both sides. We want layers of flavor on the meat. I'm using kosher salt and pepper, but you could also add some paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, lemon pepper, or if you like things spicy, a little bit of chili powder, cayenne, or chipotle. The first layer is flour. This is going to be your primer so that the eggs can stick onto the meat. Flour can taste really bland, so I have a 1/2 cup here, and I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of kosher salt and 1/2 teaspoon of coarsely ground black pepper. Whisk to combine. We want each coating to have a lot of flavor. The second layer is egg wash. The proteins in the eggs is going to help bind the crispy coating on top. For 4 chicken cutlets, you're going to want at least 3 eggs. You can add an extra egg if needed if you have really large pieces. My secret ingredient is olive oil. The extra fat is going to help the crust become even crunchier underneath. Add 1.5 tablespoons. I use a 1/2 tablespoon per egg. Just whisk everything together. The last layer is breadcrumbs. This is going to give you that super crunchy texture. You can use your favorite style of breadcrumbs, but I'm going to use panko for an extra crunch. I have 1.5 cups of panko, and I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. This is going to add a nice umami flavor. It will also help the coating bind together and give you a deeper golden brown color. To play up the Italian flavor, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of dried Italian seasonings. This is completely optional. And if you haven't tried it before, add 1 teaspoon of freshly grated lemon zest. The oil is going to add this wonderful citrus aroma and flavor to the breading. Just whisk this all together until it's combined. Dip the chicken cutlet into the flour. Make sure you press it down so that you get a nice even coating and shake off the excess. Coat the other side. This dries out the surface, making it easier for the eggs to stick. You don't want too much flour, otherwise it's going to taste really pasty. Dip the chicken in the egg wash. The egg whites are really sticky, so this is going to give a nice coating for the breadcrumbs to stick to. Lift up the chicken and drain off the excess egg wash. Now I like to grab a handful of breadcrumbs, place the chicken down on the panko, press it in to give a nice coating on the bottom side, then sprinkle the breadcrumbs on top. Flip it over so you can make sure that the breadcrumbs are on the other side as well. Pat down to make sure they adhere. Lift it up and then shake off the excess breadcrumbs. If you want to make this for meal prep, you can bread, cover, and refrigerate it for up to a day ahead. Now you're ready to pan fry, bake, or even air fry the chicken. Here's how to properly pan fry breaded chicken for the most golden brown and juicy pieces. Use a large 12-inch skillet like non-stick, cast iron, or stainless steel. For frying, use a neutral tasting high spoke point oil like vegetable, avocado, or olive oil. Add about 1/3 cup of oil to coat the bottom of the pan. We're shallow pan frying and not deep frying. Heat the oil over medium-high heat. We want to kickstart the browning process. Once the oil starts to shimmer and not smoke, add the chicken to the pan. Carefully add 2 pieces at a time. Lightly press the surface to make sure that it has contact with the hot oil. Cook the chicken until the underside is golden brown and crispy, about 2 to 3 minutes. Flip each piece over. Wow, look at that. That is so gorgeous. Reduce the heat to medium to finish cooking the chicken. The process will take about 2 to 4 minutes. The chicken is ready when it reaches between 160 to 165 degrees. Transfer the chicken to a piece of paper towel to drain off the excess grease. You don't want to leave the chicken in between batches on the sheet tray with the paper towel, otherwise the underside is going to start to get steamy and lose its crunchy fat. Transfer it to a wire rack on a sheet pan. This will keep it nice and crisp. Add about 1/3 cup more oil to the pan to fry the next batch. An easy way to check if the oil is ready is to take some of the breadcrumbs and sprinkle it into the pan. Once it starts to bubble and turn golden brown, it's ready to add the chicken. If you're making a large batch, you can keep the chicken warm in the oven at 200 degrees till you're ready to serve. If you want crunchy baked chicken without using any extra oil, try my simple baked method. Elevate the chicken on a greased wire rack. This is going to allow the air to circulate above and below for extra crunchy pieces. The key is to bake the chicken at 450 degrees for extra crunch. The chicken has been baking for about 15 to 20 minutes once it reaches the internal temperature of 160 to 165 degrees. Panko style breadcrumbs tend to not get as deeply golden brown in the oven, so I broiled it for just a few minutes to get a more golden hue on the surface. Now you have an easy hands-off method for cooking the chicken that's lower in fat. Did you know that you can meal prep breaded chicken? Here are my reheating and storing tips. Once the chicken has cooled down, transfer it to a container with the lid. You can store the chicken in the refrigerator for up to 5 days. To reheat the chicken, place it on a foil-lined sheet pan and bake at 375 until it's warm and crispy, about 10 to 15 minutes. You could also reheat the pieces in the microwave in 30-second intervals until it's hot, then transfer it to a sheet pan and broil it for a few minutes to make it crispy again, just like it was made fresh. To kick up the flavor of chicken Milanese, here are some tasty ideas. I like to serve it simply with a squeeze of fresh lemon. If you like a spicy kick, combine some mayonnaise with some sriracha to dip, or go classic with some marinara sauce. I have a recipe that I'll link to below. I like to serve the chicken with a fresh green salad with an Italian dressing. Let me show you how to make it. Add a 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar, 2 teaspoons of honey to balance the pungent vinegar, 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard, 2 teaspoons of dried Italian seasoning. My secret ingredient, 1 teaspoon of mayonnaise to keep the emulsion longer, 1 teaspoon of minced garlic, a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And for heat, add 1/8 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. This is completely optional. Whisk to combine. Gradually whisk in some high quality olive oil. This is about 3/4 of a cup. You want to break up the droplets so you can create a thick emulsion. Now you have a nice and creamy emulsified dressing. For the salad, I have a nice spring mix with some cherry tomatoes and cucumbers. I'm going to add some freshly grated Parmesan cheese, drizzle on the Italian dressing. Sprinkle on a little bit of black pepper. Going to give this a quick toss to coat the leaves. Now it's ready to serve with the chicken Milanese. The salad is super refreshing and the tangy dressing is going to complement the pan-fried chicken. Now that you know how easy it is to make a crispy chicken Milanese, what sauces and sides would you serve? Let me know in the comments below. For the full recipe, check out my website, jessicagavin.com. See you in the next video.